All right, to our next story. You know, it needs to be stated that cults, as we have just talked about, are social groups which have unusual and very often extreme religious, spiritual, or philosophical beliefs and rituals. In my country, your country, cult gangs are 10 for a penny. A conservative estimate of no fewer than 1,686 people are known to have been killed in at least 909 incidents of gang violence across Nigeria, and this is between January 2020 and March 2025. The report identifies the South-South region and the Southwest zones as the flashpoints. So whereas Rivers tops with 215 deaths, Lagos follows with 197. Well, we're still a long way from home.
It's a very unfortunate thing. It's a growing menace. It's not just in the South-South. It is all over the country. I think it's our own version of Boko Haram. And I tell you that we should not mix up the two.
Yeah.
Cult groups have always existed in every society. China, Taiwan, Singapore. Even here, we had the Ogoni that has been there for a very long time. But I think we are talking about
reform.
Yeah, you know, we have the Freemasons, you know, we have so many of them. But I think what we are talking here is violent cult groups. They have no ideology, they have no principle, except to rape people, to harm people, to kill, to maim, to destroy the society. So I think this is the major challenge.
And the political class seems to have married them to what they do.
Sure. You know, we should also appreciate and understand the changing dynamics. You know, from my own personal experience, you know, this thing started, you know, we used to have pirates confraternity. Yeah. Okay. We had Buccaneer. While I was in university, anytime we wanted to have protest, the pirates will come. They give us support. They even help us to produce pamphlets.
While pirates were the original one. But when you mention Buccaneers, my mind will go to Vikings and so on.
Yeah, you know, Buccaneer left pirates. They were also part of pirates. They were part of this that started. And of course, we also had the Black Power movement. But they were registered at UNN, for instance. You know, they were registered. We knew their leaders. And anytime, in fact, the Black Power movement used to organize programs built around South African liberation, you know, about Pan-Africanism and all that. We knew all of them, you know, but suddenly I remember that
they started, you will agree, they started as pressure groups.
Yeah.
Exactly, that's what they,
So, but I remember that in 1986, you know, the military started setting up certain groups. For instance, at the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, they armed some students. And they gave them, they trained them that they should be attacking student movements. And we knew some of these elements. There was a trial that was set up at Enugu to try university students. And these were the people that, you know, attack students, were doing rallies, they attack, kidnap a lot of students at that time. So I think at the end of the day, we discovered that some of these groups, some of these individuals started establishing violent cult groups at the university. So, and when they left the university, there was nothing to do, nobody to absorb them. They started going into the streets. I remember in 1986 or 87, Professor Chinyika had to move the way pirates from the university campuses because of the emerging, you know, influence of violent organizations and all that. You know, so the military at that time had a very important role to play in terms of army students that were anti-student radical movements. They gave them guns, they trained them. Many of them ended up joining security services. These are the things that I know very well. And so, you know, when these things started to, university authorities also started to use them, you know, to attack progressive students, to disrupt rallies and all that. So I think at a point, there was state intervention in oiling this engine until politicians came in 1999 and inherited some of these groups, gave them guns to snatch ballot boxes, to disrupt, to attack opposition. Some of them were actually used to eliminate opposition groups. And they retained them, begin to fund them, arm them. So after some time, these groups assume the life of their own. They begin to set up multiple mushroom of court organizations, training themselves, arming themselves, and they became a very, if you go to Shomolu now, it's a very major trend. They are Moshe, Ikorodu. They are there, Ibadan.
You hear
campuses.
a year, whatever.
All of them.
All of them.
So there is no ideology, there is no clarity. It's just to kill people for rituals and all that. So I think that before it gets out of hand, you remember what is going on in Haiti now. What we are lucky that these people have not raised the issue of political power. The day they also begin to say, okay, we want this person out of our own members to go for local government chairman, to go for House of Assembly, we are going to have a major problem. That's what is going on in Haiti. They are raising the question of power, arming themselves and saying they want to take over government. So we need to move very fast before this thing gets out of hand.
Yeah, Doctor.
Well,
So as I said, we're a long way from home.
Yes, we're a long way from home, but at the same time, when
would we ever get home?
when we look at the figures, especially in these two states that were mentioned, we would have seen that there is a drop in incidences over time.
Okay.
So while what we are aiming for is complete eradication and elimination of all these cult groups, we must still go and give some praises, some kudos to the security agencies, because they are trying as much as they can to eliminate these people. You recollect that a divisional police officer was killed in Rivers State some time ago.
Oh, yeah.
It was by one of the groups. And now they brought that group completely to its knee.
And I'm sorry, I hope I can draw a parallel here with the Alu-4, you know.
Yes.
It's also...
that came up. And then in Lagos, you will also recollect that Ikorodu was very notorious. Now we hardly hear things from there. Meaning that...
Wale would remember the 1 million boys.
Yes, 1 million boys. Yeah, yes, they are there also.
Yeah.
So these are things that the security agents are now paying attention to. But we really, really, really need to end it.
Yeah.
Because, like he said, this was supposed to be a pressure group and not for killing. And that responsibility to eliminate these cult groups starts from the home.
You know,
It starts from the home.
we just made a reference, even if in passing, to Ikorodu.
Yes.
I hear they celebrate something every 7th.
No, it's all over the country. And the police, I was going to go there. I've started issuing warning against it. Because 7th is just some hours away. It's usually there 7-7. For instance, in Ogun State, I got a statement yesterday from the police public relations officer, who is the chief superintendent of police, Omolola Odutola, saying that they don't want any of such gathering. Because it has come to the point where some of them are really so bold that they gather to celebrate their day. I don't know which kind of day. Openly. And there is none in the last 10, 15 years that had ended peacefully. Somebody must die. If it's not somebody they are trying to initiate, it will be the fact that they needed to go and attack an opponent.
So has it bothered you to wonder, how did we get here?
Well, he explained it. There is what we look at as a process that led to it. People who wanted peace of the graveyard in certain areas, arming people that they want to use for that purpose. That's what got us to where we are. Because if you needed to oppose a group led by someone like Professor Wole Soyinka, then you will not go and look for a group that has that intellectual capacity. It is people who have violence that they started looking for.
Wale, talking about this thing brings to mind the Oputa panel, if you remember. The emergence of the Pirates Confraternity was prominent during the Oputa panel. And Professor Wole Soyinka defended what they did. The 7 of them, the Magnificent 7, you know, they started and they were bright boys.
Sure.
Intellectually.
So intellectually sound. You could not be admitted into the confraternity if you were a lout or a layabout and so on. So, but today it has become commonplace. And
it's an everybody's game. And the only thing that they are going after is just the violence.
And
there is really nothing.
The man who gave rise to the Buccaneers left the pirate confraternity. He passed not too long ago.
The Buccaneer.
Yeah, the founder.
Yes, I think there were three of them: Tunde Jawando and Kunle Adigun, and one other.
And Craig.
Yeah, Craig. I think
he was the arrowhead.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were about three of them. They left Pirates Confraternity in 1972.
Yeah.
To establish their own. And at that time, they were very prominent on campus because the university system in Nigeria had a colonial history. You must eat with fork and knife. You must speak English. Your language is vernacular. It's a dirty language. So Pirates Confraternity and even Buccaneer started opposing those ideas from Premier University and University of Ibadan. Talking about indigenous culture and all that. That also gave rise to them. And they were known. The leaders were organizing lectures. They were organizing seminars. Quoting people like Malcolm X.
And Dr. Many Nigerians watching us would be surprised to hear that in Nigeria, people in high places were pirates.
Yeah, of course.
Judges.
Of course.
It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Generals in the army,
and so on.
So you can't compare Paris and even Buccaneer of those days with to what we have. Vikings and confraternity. What they only assure them is killing people. Street gangs, they hire them as assassins.
I hope I'm not spoiling your afternoon. If I said at school, the one that appealed to me was the Keggite.
We started at
harmless. We savored our palm wine and so on. That's the only one that appealed to me.
You are talking of Bolaji Kari, the Buccaneer.
Bolaji.
Yes. Kari. So
he broke away.
Yeah, they are totally different from what we have today. And you spoke about the Oputa panel. President Obasanjo started a good program of trying to, get some of these cult groups to confess and then they will be pardoned.
Yeah.
But after some time,
fashioned after the truth.
Towards the election, that project was abandoned.
Yeah, but
it was abandoned.
But do you know the Oputa panel lacked one thing? There was no law backing it.
Yeah.
So whatever came out was not backed by anything.
The political leaders were also not. They were not honest enough because they realized there was no need for them to actually fight those because they needed to use them during elections. When you are talking about do or die election and all that. So there has not been any genuine effort to actually deal with violent cultism. And I remember I think we read about it during the first time of Obasanjo as a military leader. Himself and Murtala, they started fighting the Ogoni people and all that. They were asking people, you are a public servant, you cannot join Ogoni. Even I remember so many people in the Orthodox churches, came out openly to confess their membership, and it was, but when it came to the time that
the name comes to mind, Holloway.
So we need to show sincerity. If the government is serious, the government can root out these elements within the shortest time.
Would we ever return home? Would we ever get home?
Well, I think we should not also forget that it's a reflection of the social crisis we have. The corruption, the collapse of law and order, distrust in the judiciary and the security system. So if somebody comes to your house to steal, and you can get a court person, you can pay him 50,000 naira. So you ask myself, why do I need to go to police when I can? So the lack of trust in the security system, the judiciary system, that if I go to the court, how long will it take to get justice? Why can't you just take some armed men to go and... So
and
we need
even still following that thread, Dr. You and I know that if a court sentences any felon to death, you can be sure the governor will not be ready to sign the warrant.
It's a political thing. It's the executions we had were during the military era.
Oh yeah.
Everybody runs away from that.
Yeah, but
because when you sign a death warrant, It's one of your
Yeah,
constituents.
but in our recent history, I cannot forget Senator Adams Oshomole.
Yes.
He signed the death warrant. All right.